Hi guys, this lesson is a bit too long, the rhetorical strategy questions lesson. We're going to do it on two parts. The first part is we're going to talk about what is rhetoric first. Now, if you want to think about this, before we start doing our lesson actually, I want you to think of this word, thank you. Now, this word can be said many times, and they can have multiple meanings. Like, for example, thank you, you are doing a really good job. Okay? So someone spills your coffee, for example, on you. So you say, thank you, you spilled the coffee on me. So it depends on the way you say it to convey the meaning to the listener. This is actually the same thing concerning the rhetorical questions. Now we have so many other examples like good job, thank you, I said thank you. Like for example, they can have multiple meanings. Now, what is rhetoric again? It is the art of effective or persuasive speaking or writing. Okay, so it depends on how you speak, how you write to persuade your listener or your reader. And especially the exploitation of some kind of figure of speech, okay, and other compositional techniques. It is the study of writing or speaking as a means of communication or persuasion. Okay, so again, it's all about persuasion, the art of persuasion, to be persuasive and to persuade other people. Okay. Now I'm going to give you three examples about how the questions of rhetorical strategy could come or you can encounter on the real estate. So these are three examples. I'm going to read them to you. This passage is written from the perspective of someone who is. Okay? So I need the perspective of someone. It means the perspective of the author himself. Which choice best describes the structure of this passage? Okay, so again, the structure of the passage also plays a really big role in conveying the meaning. The statement in line X, now here, this time we have a line reference. In line 9, for example, signals a shift from to. Now, these are called shifting, or shifting means changing. Okay, so you have like a change from something to something, a change in the point of view. So these are examples of the rhetorical strategy questions. Now, we have four kinds of rhetorical strategy questions. The first kind talks about the point of view, and it asks you about the point of view from which a passage is written. Okay, it means the point of view of the author. The second one, how paragraphs or passages are organized. Okay, so it talks about, or it asks you about the organization of the passage as a whole, or the organization of sentences inside of one paragraph. Number three is how counter arguments are presented. Okay, we talked about counter arguments before, and this is like the old versus new ideas, something like this. The last part is the effect of a particular rhetorical strategy. Now, I'm using strategy. What is the effect that this does to the text or on the text? So I can just do it like this. Number one, point of view questions. Number two, paragraph and passage organization. Again, this is the structure of the passage. Number three, the counter arguments. And number four, the effect of a rhetorical strategy. So, let's begin with number one, which is the point of view. Now, the point of view talks about narration, narrative, and actually the narrator himself. Okay? So, it could be the first person narrative, or it could be the third person narrative, or the second person narrative. Okay? The first person, it's like I or we. The third person, he, she, it, they, and the second person is you. Now, I put the second person last because it's somehow, let's say, less common than the first two narratives. Okay, so if I want want to begin with the first person narrative. It's written from a perspective of the narrator. Usually I is used, but we can be seen occasionally. Now this is a very important note. All anecdotes, all of them, I mean by definition, they are written from a first person perspective. Okay? Now, this is an example about the first person narrative. And you can just see, they just make words bold for you. We have I, me, I. So I just did this for you, so just to make it clearer. All of these pronouns are first person, so it's a first person narrative. Okay? So this is pretty easy. You should just look at the text like this and just find the pronouns. Okay? Like they are highlighted. And let's go to the second part, which is the third person narrative. It's written from an objective or impersonal. Okay? It's not me, it's not you, it's impersonal perspective, and they describe other people or things rather than the narrator, him or herself. Okay? And we have also a very important note here, which is the majority of SAT passages are written from a third person perspective. Do you know why? Because most of them are informative. Okay? Most of them are informative, and most of them give you information rather than just talk about you or about the author himself. Okay, and I have an example. This is a really good example about the third person narrative. Now, again, I'm going to highlight the important things that are going to tell me which kind of narrative this is. A car, it is really obvious. Magnetic coils, computers, this, the data, a command center, it, the three colors. All of these underlined words give you the impression that this is the third person narrative. Okay? So, the third part, which is the second person narrative, it's written to address the reader. Okay? It's kind of the listener if you are speaking, but in SAT, it's the reader. We can address them directly or indirectly. Directly by using you, this is really obvious, and indirectly by giving commands, using the imperative. Okay? So, and I told you about this note. These kinds of narratives are less common than the first and the second part, which is the first person narrative and the third person narrative. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you an example about this. Again, they are bolded. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight them for you. Now, we have you, your, you, and you. These are direct, okay? And we have indirect commands or imperatives, like start thinking, okay, you, it means you start thinking. Begin wondering, also you. And put it like this, also you. So, this is a second person narrative, okay? Now, we have a very important note. We can just apply the changes of point of view on something we have heard before. Okay? So, let's talk about this. Pronouns can be helpful when you encounter questions asking you to identify where a shift happens in the passages. Okay? Shift means to change. Okay? You must be able to recognize key places. Okay, now I think we have the ability right now. Okay, so we have new and contradictory information. When it's introduced, we have important ideas which come newly to the passage. And we have old versus new ideas. We talked about this, so you should pay attention to changes in point of view. So I'm going to give you an example, a really quick one. So we have this passage here, and we have which choice this describes the shift that occurs in line 20. Okay? In line 20, if I just go, and we have them here. As we said, that they are circled in red and the first person narrative. And here we have we. So we have a shift from, let's say, first person to first person again, but it's from I to we. Okay? So this is the shift that we are looking for. So if I just do it like this, this is the only answer choice that says that this is a shift from personal to general. I is personal, we is general, so this is C. Just let me talk about something that you notice that how we are doing these exercises. We don't have really to read the whole thing. We can just, I told you to highlight the most important things, and this was the example of shifting pronouns from I to we. So this is one example, but we have lots of shiftings coming from pronouns. Okay? Now for more examples, you should go to your book, the Critical Reader by Eric Milton, and go to pages 258 and 259 and just read the examples. Okay, so this would be the end of part 1. Please stay home, stay safe, and save lives. Thank you so much.